Hello everyone, welcome to today's stream. Um, so as you see, I actually changed things up a bit. I technically just turned my PC 90 degrees, and I'm now facing the other wall. So yeah, I also try to make it a bit nicer if possible. I was really into watching the wardrobe on the back, so yeah. The thing is, now I cannot really open the door, the glass door, in this bedroom, but that's okay. We have other doors, balcony doors anyway, so that's okay. So yeah. So I think I'm gonna continue with the I think I have the other weekend event. Oh, okay. We have this one, 649. Oh man, it's been so long I did any Undermine stuff, by the way. Complete any delve. Complete any season on dungeon. Where is the... Oh, raid. Okay. Yeah, I should get this one as well. So I actually got a lot of horrific vision mounts as well. I made videos about them. Now the next one is obviously the Voidfire Death Cycle or whatever it's called. But we actually have to do next week's vision or Grivar as well. So yeah, I cannot get that yet. Well, no one can actually. Oh, nice. We get a satchel too. Oh, and this one. All right, perfect. Perfect. Oh, I cannot sell that? You know what? It might be good for my rogue. Oh no, it's not gonna be good. Never mind. Oh no, Bismuth is way cheaper now. Oh, come on. You know, I actually didn't do at all the one in Hallowfall. What is that kind of thing? Yeah, this one. But when is the next one? Wait, I wanna go there and then we're gonna get into the raid. So I'm gonna get the chip. Oh, okay. Ooh. Whoop. Rumble. Oh, sorry, crumble. Florendo. Florendo the Furious.
Three, two.
So I heard something about no, like some changes in the add-ons. Um, Something like you're not gonna be able to see the cooldowns of other players as such. Alright. Okay, now is reverb. Oh no. Dude, what are they doing? Where is the tank going? Yeah, well. Bye bye, tank. Oh, how did I... have the spirit thing? Oh, loyal customer. Thank you. also, there was a lot of news about housing. Like a lot of people did actually try that, content creators for the most part. Uh, I think they have been invited to Boston and tested that out. I'm trying to see if there is any video we can see. All right. All right.
Blizzard recently dropped us a massive new preview. Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dale, and Blizzard recently dropped us a massive new preview for one of the most anticipated features that the WoW community has been craving for a very long time: player housing. By giving us a bit of a preview regarding the environments from the neighborhoods, as well as the detailed info as to how they will function and how they're trying to make it a proper social system for players to return to, as well as showcasing some of the different examples of what a house may look like in the future, showcasing a variety of different layouts, horde themed as well as alliance themed, showing off a bunch of different customizations and decorations that are all thematic towards different factions or even some of the smaller sub-factions of the world of Azeroth, as well as the creativity the players can actually go into when it comes to really fashioning out their home. And there's so much more information for us to go over, and apparently even more content and updates are going to be coming out regarding the housing, like a massive roadmap featuring and going over all of the different features that are expected to be added in the future. So for today's video, I really wanted to do a bit of a deeper dive as to everything we learned so far regarding this newest player housing preview. As always, if you guys want to see more regular updates for future content, either War Within or potentially Midnight, or if you want to see more updates regarding the player housing, be sure to follow the channel and subscribe. But otherwise, let's dive right in. So looking at the preview, they actually have like a ton of different customizations by the looks of it. A bunch of different decorations that you can add to your house, and I don't think I actually had that kind of, I didn't really know what to expect with the house, to be honest. I just didn't know what the neighborhoods will look like or some of the interior design and just how much customization you would have, but it looks like Blizzard is really blowing past a lot of players' expectations with this. And it's actually getting a lot of people excited about this housing feature to begin with. Now, they did talk about a number of things as part of this preview throughout interviews, throughout other videos, but I kind of want to compile some of those things together. But one of the things I wanted to hit on is the customization aspect of the housing, but also talk a little bit about decorations. One thing that really wanted to get home across a specific point is the fact that the tools we'll be using to edit our homes is actually brand new tech. Much more sophisticated than what devs normally have to deal with when it comes to decorating interiors, which may actually mean that this tool will actually might even be used to influence future environments as we head into Midnight or the Last Titan as part of the next few expansions of the World Soul Saga. And this actually could have even more implementations in terms of like making new environments, like brand new arenas, for instance, which maybe could mean that we might be able to get even more content, like more arena maps, potentially at some point in the future. There's going to be a bunch of different items with different themes, from Zendalari, the Venthyr, the Dwarven, the Troll, Orc, etc. And all of them are extremely customizable, allowing players to really fit them anywhere inside of a home. Like if you want to create,
Man, I wanted to try that out.
or tables, you'll have to move objects
Well, I wasn't invited.
in order to create that type of a theme yourself. There's going to be a bunch of tools so that players really
I would really like to get alpha this time, hopefully.
themselves are designed to give players room to be creative.
Last time I didn't get
alpha.
alpha.
Very, very close. You'll actually see a little bit of like jank in the footage. Like you'll see some objects clipping in each other and they don't quite look perfect. Like somebody created that item specifically to be a shelf, but rather maybe they use some sort of a plank and they fastened it to be a shelf to then put their books or other decorative items on it. And the whole point is to give players a ton of different control in order to really create the environments that they're looking for in order to use these items in multiple different ways. So players will get the choice of either starting with a building that's completely empty, but if you're someone who's not great at getting a home started, you'll also be able to start with some pre-built rooms and prefab models of rooms.
Oh, alright.
So
That's handy.
Like you get you some of the bare bones basics, and then you can start adding your own little doodads to help decorate the place and make it your own. However, if you just want to go with like a really, really clean slate, apparently the rooms are going to be pretty big, especially if you go for like a bigger house layout for your home. Like instead of having like a proper library, it just will be a massive room. But a player can then add stairs that go all the way up. Shelves littered around the sides full of books
Nice.
and tomes and magical items.
Yeah, I
and
want
things.
stairs and shelves and all of that.
Different items that are all personally customizable. And you can basically just customize every little bit of detail to really add it more depth, to really add it more interesting components within the home. So you can turn a massive, tall room that's usually empty into a staircase that leads to a second floor, and decorate the bottom to be full of books, and the top can be maybe some kind of laboratory of sorts. And I think that kind of customization players did not expect really, but being able to see it out for ourselves, a short little preview of how it may look like, it's actually kind of amazing. Another note that I want to talk about is making sure that veteran players are very rewarded with this housing system. Veteran players and players who've been playing the game for a while and have had a variety of different adventures throughout the world, whether it's in dungeons, open world content, achievements, you name it. All of those players will not have to rerun content, like old content. So you will not need to rerun older raids or dungeons.
That's cool.
All of a sudden try to go for some of these decorations. That is one of those things that is being adjusted based on community's feedback. Imagine like if let's say you ran ICC and you've got every single mog and invincible and everything available, and now you got to run it yet again for hundreds more pulls, hundreds more runs, just so you can get additional decorations from that instance. Instead, they're thinking of adding maybe some sort of like a vendor outside of, let's say, a dungeon. And if you completed the dungeon in the past, you can now just go directly to the vendor and purchase the items of decorations you can get from that instance instead of
Yeah,
having to
that
run it
seems
all
to
over
be
again. So you're still trapped
better
in, how
instead
you
of
go about it. But at least they're taking a step forward and
like
addressing some of the
imagine
community
if
feedback
you
of feeling like, am I gonna have to grind old raids and old content all over again, even though you
imagine if you did like a raid. Let's say in my case, I ran Dragon Soul more than 100 times to get the mount. Imagine if they force me to have to go and do it again in order to get a transmog, like a disco ball, whatever. So yeah, I think that's that's for the best. That's for the better.
you finish the old grinds from back in the day. This is partially why they're tying some of the decoration rewards to achievements, because those are the things that are account-wide. For defeating certain bosses, there's usually some sort of a achievement to mark the occasion, and that would be the easiest way for them to integrate some of those specific rewards to make sure that players that have been playing the game for a while can have a rewarding feeling immediately as soon as the housing system gets enabled. Another thing that we really wanted to hit upon is neighborhoods, which is a very unique feature. Not only are you just going to be able to own a home, but you'll own a home in a neighborhood, which is meant to be the social hub. Neighborhoods apparently are going to be full-sized zones where your house will be. Though it won't be a zones with quests or rares to slay or a places to explore. It won't be leveling content like most zones usually tend to become and be defaulted to, but it wanted to be a space that players are encouraged and have more than one reason to go back to over and over again. Outside of this, though, they did give us more information regarding neighborhoods, and each neighborhood is going to place 50 houses each. Neighborhoods can either be public or private, and there's actually a couple of different variations of neighborhoods also using some new tech that allows one neighborhood, like yours for example, to look one way, but your friends will look slightly different. Apparently using some new tech that allows them to look familiar, but also at the same time quite different. Maybe in the layout, maybe where the houses were, or maybe like in some of the like trees or placements of decorations, or maybe one neighborhood will have a market stall, but another may have like a blacksmith area instead, just to make sure that each neighborhood is a little bit more distinct from one another. And the one thing that we're really worried about this whole housing system is to make sure that it doesn't become what garrisons were, where technically everybody could be in the same garrison at the same time, but you never get to see other people. While you can go and visit your friends' garrisons, you're all in the same area, but also isolated at the same time. Like literally everybody could be on the same map, hanging out in their own versions of their homes, sorta kinda. But at the end of the day, you don't really get to see other people. It is not a social system, and they're really trying to make sure that they don't hit the same issues that they ran in with garrisons. As housing meant to be a social feature specifically, it is meant to give players a reason to go back to this type of unique bit of content. And they're looking to add additional incentives in the future that aren't specifically player power based. But what those incentives are, right now that's a little up in the air. In the future they do want to add a roadmap in order to provide players with some additional improvements, as this is going to be an evergreen feature that will continue to evolve going forward. But maybe it'll be successful. You know, like transmogs, when that first was introduced, I mean, it immediately took off. Players going back to old content to
Yeah, I
find all
think
the pieces to create the mods so they could
I think
show
it's much
off
better,
to other
obviously.
players, or just to have a rocky mod that they could just take into the next dungeon, a raid, or a PvP environment. And I guess the question is, will the housing have exactly the same appeal? They're thinking of adding more incentives, possibly anything like, I don't know, maybe some sort of a buff for exploration in the open world. Maybe when you visit your house and you spend like 5 minutes inside decorating, you get an XP buff in order to, or maybe like a rep buff on top of it, right? Like a cozy buff that increases your effectiveness in certain limited open world content. Maybe like an auction house or other conveniences that could be easily reached just for going to visit your house. They're trying to figure that out, and they're really taking a lot of the player feedback, but maybe the system by itself will stand the test of time. They've added a couple of cool new systems that really got easily accepted by players, from the work order system, which was functionally really good for endgame progression, although there's an extra functionality, it was easily accepted by a lot of players. Or skywriting, or early version of dragon writing, immediately loved by the community. It didn't really make endgame content much easier, but making your way throughout the open world became a lot more fun immediately. So, maybe this feature by itself will be able to stand on its own two legs as test of time, but they're really trying to take it seriously to try to provide for the community a system that they would want to have when it comes to housing in World of Warcraft. Try to make sure they don't stumble on the same issues of garrisons, and really trying to make the content for the players, which is essentially what is the purpose of this thing. It's not made for progression of player power, it's literally created for the community. So I guess the question is, what would you really want to see out of the housing system, and what do you think would make it successful going forward as a feature to make you want to keep going back to it again and time again? But with that being said, as always, I don't want to thank all of you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys did enjoy this video. If you did enjoy it or found it informative, go ahead and give it a like. I would very much appreciate it. Join our Discord community where we do it.
Oh no. Is there any interview that we can see? Um, oh, it's not a video?
Welcome to a special edition of WoWcast, where we're going to talk about a patch 11.1.7 feature, and then a broader discussion about add-ons.
5, 4.
Welcome to a special edition of WoWcast, where we're going to talk about a patch 11.1.7 feature, and then a broader discussion about add-ons in World of Warcraft in general. I'm Dranos, World of Warcraft content creator.
I'm Max, I'm the raid leader of Team Liquid, the WoW Guild, and a content
Oh, it's Max.
And I'm Ian Hasikostas, game director on WoW, and it's a pleasure to be here with you guys.
Very excited to be here. So what are we doing in 11.1.7?
A whole bunch of fun stuff, but one of the features that we're extra excited about is a new UI option that we're adding called Rotation Assist, which is really designed to help players who are maybe picking up a new spec or want some guidance on what abilities they should be using when, without having to turn to third-party add-ons for it. So we've seen that, there's an add-on called Pekili that is very popular with a lot of players. We're basically building in a very similar version of that into the base UI that you can opt into. That will, no matter what DPS spec you're playing, highlight the recommended next ability given your current energy, what's going on around you, and so forth. One extra thing that we're also going to do, which maybe goes a bit beyond what the add-ons can do, is also have a one-button version of that, where there'll be like a keybind that if you just want almost an auto rotation, you can opt into that, and it will just automatically cast the next recommended ability in the sequence. There'll be a small GCD penalty associated with that, but we want to make sure that this is for accessibility purposes, that it's there for people who maybe just honestly aren't interested in the gameplay of like mastering their spec. They want to explore Azeroth and experience the story, and the mechanics kind of get in the way of that sometimes. This should be for them. Ideally, this is not a tool where someone is like being told by their raid leader to stop trying to DPS manually and just turn on the one button mode to meet some DPS check. That we want to give you the tools to kind of go through that organic progression naturally.
Great.
But so the rotation assist doesn't come with a penalty or anything like that. That's just we're going to show you what your next button is.
Exactly.
Right.
It's very similar to the Achille add-on. It's kind of reflecting, just the latest kind of established theory crafting, and it's something that we would continue to update, with spec changes and class changes over time. Ideally, it all gets born out of the idea that we've seen a valuable tool that players feel like they should be looking outside the game to download, and we'd rather just reduce the barriers to that and make it available to everyone.
Okay.
Yeah, because there's two parts of it, right? Like the advanced is, I want to really go into this, is the one button thing, but that's not necessarily everyone that's going to use this. Like I think this game, especially new players getting into it, there's a lot going on within a particular class, and you can be a little lost trying to figure out exactly what I should be pressing. So even just using it as like as a guide to start learning your class and move off of it eventually, but just having a base understanding of what actually should I be doing at a base level of this.
That's really exactly the motivation on our end. I mean, especially with warbands and War Within, you see lots and lots more alts, and leveling is pretty quick. You got a bunch of warbound until equipped here that you're passing over to a new character, and just jumping into their full rotation you never played the spec seriously before can be a pretty serious undertaking. And for some people, this may be enough for them, and that's fine too. But we recognize that there's so much. WoW has such a high skill ceiling that just recommending what the next ability is isn't going to really remove that or fully solve that. There's still the muscle memory that you need to form.
Yeah.
All of the nuances of we might have a recommendation for a rotation that makes sense if you're fighting a target demi, you're fighting patchwork, but when you need to plan around the fact that you're going to have to move in 4 seconds, that's a whole different layer of skill that still rests with players.
Yeah, I know when I'm trying to play a new spec for the first time or haven't played it in years, it often feels like I've got like a 30-minute checklist of, okay, I got to set up my keybinds, got to make sure, this ability's changed since 2 expansions ago, I got to rebind that. And then I got to go and read some guides and figure out how all my new rotation works, and here's how the new set bonus works. So I could see it being really nice to just have this is a way to jump into some content to do with your friends and have it work out nice and easily. One thing that jumps out to me is that a lot of the content I'd want to do would be like delves or keys. And in either of those cases, there's a lot of AoE.
Yeah.
Is this going to have are we going to detect whether we're fighting 3 targets, 5 targets, and is it going to cast my Arcane Explosion instead of my Arcane Blast, or is it just always going to be a single target?
It's not just single target. There is some sense of how many enemies are within your range in front of you, etc. And so that will affect the recommendations. Again, the goal is not optimal. The goal is not like this is going to everyone's always going to get perfect parses and so forth going forward. But as a baseline, this should be it should be useful the same way that many people find it useful today. And really, a lot of this building on the foundations of the cooldown manager that just came out in 11.1.5 kind of reflects us hearing people in the community telling us that they feel like they need to seek out these third-party resources just to play the game at like a baseline effective level in competitive content. And us asking is that where we want the game to be in the long term, and what can we do to build in native solutions to many of these problems?
Like the base construct of it, there is this will help you learn what you're supposed to do if you are new, and then there is
I guess that should be good for if you want to try a new class, for new players, obviously. Like for veterans, it's not gonna be that crazy thing. It's gonna be helpful for some, for sure.
Press one button and just kind of hang out and play the game. I have one question about the actual rotational thing. So is that going to change with talents? So let's say, is it going to work off the base talent build, or let's say you select a talent that now moves a AoE button into your single target rotation? Is it going to be smart enough or planned to be smart enough to incorporate a bunch of different potential talent builds?
The goal is that it's aware of your talents, and the logic is conditional based on what you do or don't have talented. As with, this is going to be something that continues to evolve. We may not have every single possible permutation accounted for in the version that we roll out with, but it should still be very useful in that form to everyone, and we'll just get refined from there. Similar to the cooldown manager that we know is that is a first take at this we have plans to add much more customization, much more functionality to that over time as well.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's a really exciting feature individually. The thing that's most exciting to me is in the broader context of the cooldown manager, of all these other edit mode changes that have come out. You know, there was a time 5 years ago in WoW where if you were just getting into the game, there was an intimidating list of these are the add-ons that you need, and if you're not using these, you're kind of worse, right? Like you're noticeably worse. If you can't track your group member's major cooldown, right? Like you're worse at Mythic Plus than somebody who is, right? And it seems like the goal that has been accomplished with a lot of these things that have been coming into the base UI is you can use those add-ons if you want, but we now have a native way to the game where you don't have to get an add-on.
That's pretty much exactly our long-term philosophical goal here, right? Add-ons are amazing. The things that the community has done over the last 20 years to allow people to experience different aesthetics, different functionality, have information available at their fingertips, like that is a huge part of WoW's success, and we don't question or want to undermine that for a moment. At the same time, like as you said, ideally it is about what do you want? How do you prefer to have things presented to you, and not what do you have to do? What is a group mate or raid leader or whatever telling you you must download? Or if you ask people, you know, hey, how can I get better? I'm really struggling at this. The first answer shouldn't be, well, download this add-on, this add-on, and this add-on, otherwise you're doing it wrong. Because that's starting to get into that mandatory place, whether we like it or not. So yeah, I think, you know, longer term, these initiatives kind of fit into part of, you know, how we're thinking about the role of add-ons in WoW. You know, as we can probably all agree, today, there is a sense that if you want to really be the best you can, if you want to play competitive content, there are certain add-ons that are required, that are simply going to improve your success over not having them, period. We would like to get away from that being the case. And I think I'd love to see a WoW one day where you can still customize the aesthetic look of your UI, you can have information and quest helpers and all the other things that you might want to have to make your experience a bit more seamless. But that at the end of the day, when you're in competitive content, when you're queuing up for a rated PvP match, when you're going into a high key, when you're trying to get a first kill on a raid boss, there isn't the sense that you are, you know, just holding yourself back if you're not using specific tools. We know that there's a lot of work to do to get to a place where that could be the reality. The first steps really are going to be continuing to build up the just right out of the box functionality that World of Warcraft offers to shrink that gap. But at the same time, I think we're aware that at the very end of this process, we probably are going to have to rein in some of the functionality that add-ons currently have to do like real-time in-combat problem solving specifically, where it's like automating coordination, communication in ways that are always going to be better than anything the UI can natively provide you as long as they remain possible.
Yeah, so that moves us into like raid bosses where I don't want to name any names, but there are people who have optimized a little bit of their own fun out of the game sometimes. And I don't know where any of them might be sitting. They could be anywhere. They could be in this room with us.
Yeah.
Hey man, I am the like number one. Let's just YOLO this. Let's just do the fight. Let's make it work. And then sometimes it gets to let's try to make something that could be 95% successful, 100 or 99, right? And there's a lot of frustration with the tech involved with that. I would definitely be. I think a lot of the raiding community would be pretty for that. You know, I think a well-designed mechanic that the game giving you enough information to solve this on your own realistically. A lot of the times the community will just use one because it's like what everyone else uses. It gets you in the same place. But if that doesn't exist and the game is giving you that information, it's objectively better, right?
And even if you are doing it very well, you know, manually, it's always going to be better to do it perfectly in a competitive situation. I mean, having watched, you know, your raid leading, for example, over many, many years over the race to world first, like years ago, you would call much more stuff verbally.
Very
like
true.
going back to, you know, Legion, BFA era, whereas nowadays it seems like if there is something you're calling repeatedly on attempts, the first thing you're doing is asking if, hey, can we automate this and get me out of the business of talking, which seems like it might be less enjoyable for you as a raid leader.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, if we're talking about that, I could talk all day about that. Yeah. No, I mean, I felt like you certainly had more of an impact when you had the ability to, you know, influence the fight more. But the reality is just getting some way to automate it for your players is just better. You know, it is funny. Like when I do that now, I think, you know, well, what else can I be doing with my time? I could be like looking at other ways to optimize it. It's purely for the sake of getting better. So yeah, for my own enjoyment, yeah, that's sweet. Let's do that. I'm trying to wonder also about those kind of mechanics. So like what bosses have existed in my head, I think in the past couple of years, there's not many, but have been defined by, when we're progressing this boss, we feel like maybe we're progressing a weak aura. Something like Brood Twister or Echo of Neltharion or Jailer maybe was one of the first ones, right? And those mechanics, I feel like, could not have been done or probably been nerfed without weak auras or having that effectiveness of that reduced. What do you do as a fight designer now? Do you, I know you're obviously like really passionate about raiding, you've raided for a really long time. Do you have to avoid those kind of assignment mechanics? Are there things in game you can use to like naturally sort out those things? Like, do you give more time for the mechanics? Like do you have to stray away from assignments in general because the community has just, whether you like it or not, has like trained themselves to have something solve that for them? Do you have to like go back into like a more simple version of that? Do you find other ways to make fights difficult? There's obviously a bunch of ways to do that.
The way we design encounters has been influenced in significant ways by the way players use add-ons. I know, the community sometimes speculates that, this was built clearly to require an add-on. I can say that's never the case. No encounter designer is ever sitting around saying, all right, we're going to make this mechanic, and then players will write this weak aura to solve it this way. All right, mission accomplished, let's ship the boss.
All right.
When we're thinking about the overall pacing of a fight, the tuning, we might get feedback on a fight that it feels like there isn't enough going on, when in actuality, there are 4 or 5 mechanics going on, but add-ons are largely compartmentalizing and making it so that most players don't have to think about them most of the time, and then players give us feedback that, hey, this fight felt a little bit slow, like I was just punching the boss for 3 minutes. And so then maybe we add another mechanic in the next iteration of that, or a similar encounter. We get to a higher overall complexity space where, there's just, you look at the dungeon journal and you're scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, and maybe half of it doesn't even matter because add-ons are going to handle it for you. I think that's not a great place for things to land. It also definitely ties our hands in some ways. Like, I think we do fewer coordination mechanics than we used to. Like, there used to be, like, if you look at old school WoW days, there were encounters where, like, the primary challenge for your raid was by design coordinating some rotation. And the execution beyond that wasn't super complicated, but making sure that this thing stayed soaked, or that, you were rotating people through with their debuff or whatever, that became a big part of the fight's challenge. Now we know ultimately that, like, that can never be the thing that we lean on for challenge, because it's going to be solved, and it's not going to be solved through what we think of as the more just interesting MMOE, like communication, cooperation, figuring out systems for having these things work in a way that feels collaborative. It's going to be downloading the weak aura pack, setting it up appropriately, maybe having 3 or 4 frustrating wipes because there was a typo in the configuration, that's not what I think anyone really wants raiding to be. And so we move away from making those mechanics as much, and lean more on things that add-ons can't solve for you, like moving out of a swirly under your feet with only a little bit of time to respond. Like, I don't think it's a coincidence that more and more of our fights have those sorts of just like twitch reaction, avoidance mechanics, whereas that used to be one type of fight that we did. The design space is definitely constrained by the knowledge that, if we lean on it too heavily, it's just going to get trivialized.
Some of my favorite WoW raid boss memories are bosses like Mythic Unat, Mythic Anduin. You have to spread out and then you get these marks and you have to go to the right places. And there used to be definitely a library of mechanics like that, where you would get them and then you'd have to think, and you'd have to have like a system. You'd have to have 20 players coordinate and become one team that does a mechanic like that. And the fact now that add-ons take on much of that job of coordinating us, I think that almost all the Mythic Raiders I know would be delighted to move back to a world where we did that in our brains, right? But in Dragonflight, we saw a little bit of an attempt to make that happen, right, with the private aura system.
Okay,
And what
Maxine.
ended up happening was we still had the weak aura, but now we also have a macro that we need to press, and then the weak aura will assign us the same thing. So I'm a little bit worried. How's the arms race between the weak aura devs trying to come up with a new way around the restriction that you're putting in? Is this just a further escalation in that?
Hopefully not. I think our goal here is kind of disarmament and definitely not further escalation. I think we understand that if we're not going to try more little targeted things like that are going to encourage workarounds, and it just ends up with this back and forth. Because if there is a way to solve a complex mechanic, but you have to jump through a couple of more hoops to do so, you'll do that, and then just be more annoyed by the process. Our goal is to try to get out of that space entirely. And so I think down the line eventually, that may mean, I think, some broader restrictions on specifically what information add-ons have access to about combat events in real time. At the same time, we know that that's not a thing that we could just do right now without providing a lot more on our end, both in terms of just UI type functionality, but also looking at how we're designing some encounters, how some of our classes work. I think there are tons of add-ons that are healthy and valuable and really important to how players play the game that do rely on that flow of information. Everything from something as simple as damage meters to honestly boss time, ability timelines, like the DDM style, when is this next ability going to fire that people have basically been raiding with forever. That's not the computational weak auras, that's just, hey, this ability is gonna happen in 15 seconds. We wanna build in our own version of that. I think down the line, we'd love to see a place where there is a boss timeline as just part of the encounter UI, and that's not something you need an add-on for. And that way we can hopefully eventually get to a point where we're really just cutting out the weak aura that solves the mechanic for you, but not the informational stuff that you feel like, it really feels like the game should have been telling you all along, where add-ons are, admittedly, kind of filling in some gaps there.
Okay, so coming in 11.1.7, we're gonna have the rotation helper, those two options. What of the rest of this initiative, is any of the rest of this in 11.1.7, or are we just starting the conversation now?
I think there's a lot of stuff that we're working on. I think, we've seen the cooldown manager and then the rotation assist coming. I think down the line, it's some of the stuff that I touched on. I don't have specific patch dates right now, but we are looking at damage meters, we're looking at nameplate improvements. We are looking at, a raid encounter information presentation that shows you timeline of boss abilities coming up. Things in that general space. I think we're looking at all the places where players say right now, you need this weak aura, you need this add-on to be competitive, and asking ourselves, how do we change our game to make that not the case? And some of that's going to be add-on functionality, or UI functionality. Other aspects are going to be looking at how we're building some encounters or how some class mechanics work. I think it's super fair to point at some specs, let's say Outlaw Rogue, who I know are easy one to pick on in some of these ways, and ask how is anyone really supposed to execute this perfectly with the base UI? Almost any time we're tracking stacks of a buff,
what are we waiting for?
Where it's if you're between 4 and 7 stacks, you should do this, otherwise don't. Those are not reasonable tests for us to be posing to our players without providing them the information to do it correctly. And so we need to either provide the information, simplify the mechanic, or both.
There are a lot of players who love the version of Outlaw Rogue that it has existed over the past few years. So I think there's always some fear when this discussion starts up of, is the answer going to be to simplify everything? And I think it's really exciting to hear instead that the answer is, okay, we'll maybe simplify some of these huge outliers, but we're gonna bring in the functionality that makes it so that instead of needing to download a weak aura to solve this, right? Instead of needing to have a complicated assistant tell you, now you're supposed to press this button, now you're supposed to press this button, instead we're going to provide that information in a more clear way than looking at the top right of your screen to see your buffs and trying to catch the rotation buff between all the other 20 that are changing in combat.
That's definitely the goal. I think we want World of Warcraft to be as approachable as possible, but we also love that the skill ceiling in the game is as incredibly high as it is. That allows for tons of differentiation, self-expression, and accomplishment. But I think, a lot of at its core, a lot of skill in WoW, I think, boils down to multitasking ability. And even just, you might be able to do amazing damage just testing it against a target dummy. Very different world when you're also in an encounter and need to do 3 mechanics at the same time. And we see, tunnel visioning DPS are a meme for a reason, right? They're just focused on their rotation and whoops, they just messed up the encounter mechanic, or vice versa. Someone who is good at mechanics, but their DPS goes off a cliff. Really, the function of a lot of these add-ons is to offload a portion of that computational complexity. And we recognize, if we are removing some of that functionality or providing more information, we can probably remove a couple of mechanics, but still keep the same level of challenge. The goal is not to make it easier. The goal is to make it less complex. And I think that's, is a key distinction there. Because I think it often can sound like, oh, this is about, this might be about dumbing down the game or simplifying things. It's not that. It's about trying to create a more approachable baseline experience that still has every bit as much room for differentiation.
When you were talking about add-ons that things have been in the game, been inspired by it, you mentioned a damage meter.
Yeah.
So I'm really interested in just what your view is, philosophy-wise, about damage meters in games like this.
That's a great question, and I think ultimately we have to be guided by what our community prefers and what we see them doing today. The single most popular add-on used across the entire game is a damage meter by like a fair margin.
Okay.
The majority of players, the large majority of players, have a damage meter add-on installed, and so that indicates that people want to see that information at least about themselves. We definitely want more nuanced measures of success and understanding, like how successful were you or how much did you contribute on this run, highlighting things like interrupts, highlighting things like avoidable damage to give a fuller picture of performance. But at the end of the day, I think for someone who's trying a new spec, trying a new talent build, getting a new trinket, and they want to see like how did this affect my performance compared to the last run, that's an important piece of information to have. And so I think we know that in any world where we were going to limit some of the ability of add-ons to like again do that real-time combat event tracking, we would need to provide a damage meter solution of our own. And I think one of the exciting things is I think if we're doing that on our end, we can also have it be server authoritative, so you're not worried about like who's in a different combat phase, who's out of range, or whatever. It could just be like, this is official and going to be accurate all the time.
We're obviously mostly thinking about Mythic Raid when our brains go to how this is going to affect things, but the overwhelming majority of players are in heroic raids, normal raids, raid finder raids, doing Mythic Plus dungeons, right? When we're talking about making these changes to what WeakWars can do, is there an appetite for changing how heroic and normal raids function as well? Like, do we see these problems in there as well for what add-ons can do and how they solve things?
Absolutely. I mean, I think it all trickles down, right? I mean, I think maybe even a larger percentage of players doing Mythic Raid might use specifically Gora packs than, let's say, normal. But those add-ons are used by the majority of players right now, and certainly other boss mods are as well. I think a lot of it just comes down to what are the coordination challenges that we're presenting. If there's something that everyone is relying on a tool right now to assist with, we would have to change it to still keep it the same level of challenging, but without that same automation assistance. And that can take many forms. It can be there's one or two fewer things to soak. You have an extra couple of seconds to actually spread out on the fly. It's a pretty common mechanic of like, all right, 3 people get a debuff, and they just have to like run out in different directions from each other. People have been just kind of playing the game and doing those for years and years. But of course, if you can if the time you're given to react is so tight that you can't afford to do that, then people do gravitate towards, all right, we're going to put diamond, circle, and triangle on the ground. Everyone's going to get an auto-assigned marker, and you just know, like, I'm going to run to my marker to guarantee that it's executed correctly. I think it's a bit more interesting if we give you a couple of seconds so that you can look around and make sure you're not running in the same direction, and then do the exact same thing. I mean, at the end of the day, raiding in particular, but group PvE, group PvP too. Like in an MMO, a huge portion of I think the fun of it is coordination, communication, feeling like everyone's working together to overcome some.
All right.
And I think getting back into a space where there's room for more of that organic collaboration, as opposed to it just being like regimented and solved by an external tool, I think it will open up a lot of design.
Ooh, 100. Damn.
Throughout the last couple years, especially in Mythic Plus, that had been ramping in complexity. You've seen, and actually even if you can go back, like you can see the amount of things that people have in their UI to help them know that something's happening.
All right.
So like back in Power Wars, it was there was just some giant face on your screen would pop up, and that meant that something procced. And then it's gotten more refined. And now, even in the last, it's been ramping in the past couple of years. You see like. You listen to someone's POV who's doing High Mythic Plus right now, you're going to hear AoE, dodge, frontal, circle. Yep. Like, it's just every bit of audio aid they've used to it's in the idea of being optimal, it's not required. And especially this patch, I think Mythic Plus complexity has actually gone down as an intentional design point, it seems at least. I think you might have made a post about that. So that stuff is less required, but people have like kind of already baked that in the UI. Is that something that you're looking to either have an ability to have that in the game, or is that something you don't want to have happen, where it's more like you're organically doing mechanics because you see them, or are you okay with all of the audio and visual aids that exist currently within add-ons?
I think the answer is mixed there. I think like audio prompts are something that are super valuable to people. That's something we want to continue to add support for on our end as well. Like we know feedback we've gotten around the 11.1.5 cooldown manager would be that many people would appreciate being able to have audio prompts tied to certain things or prompts firing, and that's something they would miss about weak auras. We want to make sure that we're offering that kind of thing as well. Beyond that, I mean, I think a lot of
where
what
is
we've
that?
seen is, frankly, us not doing a sufficiently good job of telegraphing the importance of certain mechanics and their impact, and players needing to come up with solutions for them externally. Ideally, there's a concept we call affordance, which is basically just how well is something telegraphed, how intuitive is it with visual presentation, and ideally, the affordance of a mechanic should match its impact. And sometimes, if you have a random mob in a dungeon pack that has a frontal that will just delete you if you're not getting out of the way of it, and it's just one thing going on among a half dozen other things, why? And why? How could we call that out better with visuals, with a longer cast time, with how we're creating the pack in the first place? And that's just one example of one of the areas in which we know we can do better. Something else we've talked about on the UI front is we would want the ability to, on our end, flag mobcasts in Mythic Plus as lethal. As this should be a high priority interrupt, because we know players are going to basically look to solve that anyway. If there are 3 casters in a pack, and 2 of them it's actually kind of okay to let them free cast, but one of them, if they ever get a cast off, you're probably going to wipe. They shouldn't all just look indistinguishable on your screen and us expect you to figure that out on your own.
They did that in season 1, right? Wasn't there a couple casts or super giga you die death volley or something?
Yeah.
And they had this big animation.
Our Kara casters where they hunker down, there's green glowy stuff around them, and they're casting a volley, and you're like, all right, I gotta kick
You've
that.
been playing WoW for 2 days, and you're like,
That's not happening,
that can't happen, yes.
But I'm looking forward to an M+ then, where if we're talking about maybe taking away my ability to air horn myself on a certain cast, something like that, if instead I have to be now looking at a mob and there is a sort of a visual language that I can come to expect, if the mob is hunkering down and it's got particle effects around it, that means I gotta kick it. I think that would be more fun for everybody as well, rather than having the air horns be the solution.
Definitely.
That is entirely our hope, right? I think, and just to be super clear, I think we see the taking away part, the restricting functionality, as the end of this long road. I think we know, we want to make it very clear, we're not sitting here being like, all right, we want you to play the game the way we intended, and we're gonna take away your tools. We just want to bridge that gap. And we have a lot of work to do on our end to keep building up more improvements, more functionality. And again, it's not just the UI. The VFX changes that you mentioned are a part of that overall effort of us asking, what are the places where players feel like they need add-ons to succeed? Why is that the case? And when it's it's not clear when you're standing in something, and so I need GTFO or some other sound effect to let me know that I'm standing in something lethal, it should be obvious. Let's fix that on our end. And we want to keep chipping away at those things, and hopefully eventually get to the point where really the only difference between what we are offering and what powerful add-ons can do is that small subset of computational problem-solving stuff, at which point we can move forward.
So throughout the evolution of private auras, we've seen, initially when they came out, they were a lot of friction was involved, and I think they were done really, really well in a couple of cases, starting in Amirdrasil, where they were a mechanic like P1 Fire Act. You had the circles you had to quickly spread out for. They were pretty fast. They were too fast to use a macro for it, and it basically forced the players into something they would have used a weak aura for, to just do the mechanic normally. And are there lessons you've learned there of this is actually how we can design mechanics or kind of assignment things going forward? And then also, is this, if done successfully, would this also remove private auras as what would have been, I guess, kind of a temporary solution to the weak aura problem?
Yeah, we've definitely learned a lot from how private auras have rolled out. Certainly we understand that if we're ever using it on something that is on a long enough time frame that macros are going to let you solve it and it's punishing enough to not solve it, all we're doing is creating an extra annoying hoop to jump through, and we hotfixed off the private aura designation from some of those back in Amirdrasil, and we've let that shape how and where we use or don't use it going forward. And so I think examples like the Farak mechanic that you mentioned are ones where when we know that everyone is on a level playing field, everyone just has to play the game, play the mechanic, we can tune it accordingly so that it's hard but doable. We'd like to be able to do more of that for sure.
Yeah, I see the Fire Act first intermission, which was a private aura and then had to get hotfixed off of the private aura, as sort of a cautionary tale for if there's a mechanic that is only doable with the weak aura assignments, and then we take away that without giving an adequate replacement, then it's worse than doing nothing at all. what would a mechanic like that look like in a world where we don't have a computational solution to it, right? Would it be slower and fewer sets of, like, lower damage numbers on these things?
I think
I
probably.
didn't really play, I think. I
There's
don't
multiple
remember
ones
which
there.
one they're
There's,
saying.
on Mythic we might default to like everyone.
The one in phase 3?
Everyone in the raid has to participate in this, and there's enough things to be soaked that if anyone isn't doing it, it's not going to work out. Versus maybe shifting to a world where there's a little bit more slush, things are a little bit slower, there's a little bit more time to react, to get into place organically based on which buff you were assigned, stuff like that. But at the end of the day, our goal here is to preserve challenge. And we know that we'd have to design encounters differently in some cases to deliver roughly the same level of challenge in terms of how many pull counts it takes, just what progression looks like while living in a different mechanical world. And I know that when we talk about restricting any kind of add-on functionality, many players very rightly, kind of reflexively say or ask, well, how am I supposed to do this boss in this tier without my weak aura? That would be impossible. And the reality is, if you couldn't use that weak aura, that mechanic would be designed or tuned differently. We would have ended up nerfing it right away or designing it differently over the course of even just PTR testing. And so that's like any future design in this space will have to be built from the ground up with that in mind. And I think it's making it a little bit more forgiving in a way that makes the challenge human rather than superhuman, as it often is when we're looking at like cutting edge mythic tuned things. Because you guys are really good at the game, as it turns out, and we want to make a boss that is going to pose a challenge and is going to take you dozens of attempts, let alone 100 plus to beat. We do have to take into account the fact that not just you, but every mythic raid guild that's going to follow in your footsteps are going to be using these tools. And at the end of the day, I think players do want challenging bosses. That if we just tuned the boss around none of those things, players used all those tools, and they went in and like a late mythic boss was dying in a single night for like a cutting edge guild rank 500 or whatever, that probably doesn't match what they're looking to get out of mythic raid in my estimation. And so like our goal is to keep the same overall level of challenge while paring down the complexity a little bit.
Even if you look at the history of bosses this would have affected, you actually, even looking at Mythic Plus, something where the complexity has gone down from pack to pack in this patch, but the reality is you can still find challenge in it because it's infinitely scaling, and you will get to a point where it's doing too much damage to you, or the amount of damage you need to do is too high. There's been Mythic bosses that have been simple mechanically, but have been unbelievably difficult, and that's been true all the way down the guild rank. It's not something that's just nerfed by gear. Like Sludge Fist, Kaiveza, where you've created really intricate problems to solve where weak auras basically didn't matter. Halandris, you actually put a bomb timer very clearly in the game around the bomb. You did not need a weak aura for one of the hardest bosses ever, right? It's more just basically the solution for these weak auras has been just a very specific kind of assignment mechanic that is just like, oh, it's just so much easier to do this, right? You could build in a lot of that computational stuff in game to where even if weak auras existed, you would find people just being like, I don't know, the game just kind of does it. We have players that don't use audio sounds in weak aura packs because on bosses like Skarn, on most other bosses, there's like either an in-game sound for when the bombs are actually activating or a voice line. We have 2 players in our guild that use very minimal weak auras, and they literally listen to voice lines for when mechanics are going to happen, and it's extremely accurate, right? So I think a lot of these things are already built into the baseline game. It's just about choosing like when and how to apply them.
Absolutely. And yeah, I think your example, going back to Nat,
Voice lines.
I think is a great one, right? Like a lot of that was just practice and just learning like how to react to these situations when chained to different partners and dodging the stuff. And people were in enough situations over enough time, they kind of develop that muscle memory, that sense of planning, and eventually your guild as a whole overcomes the challenge. Compared to, let's say, so many generals that came after it, a couple of issues there, but like one of the central mechanics that was being solved by weak auras was like, all right, there's a whole bunch of soaks that need to be covered over the course of the fight, and it's not realistic to have that like 7 to 8 soaks up simultaneously, where you need to also account for like, well, this person just got targeted by different mechanics, so they need a backup to go in and do it for them.
Yeah, so it sounds initially like it's, we're restricting what add-ons can do, but really we're opening up the universe of mechanics that can exist in a WoW boss without, because there are so many that you could think of right now where all of them would be, this is going to get solved by this, right? This is going to get solved by this, but if that's not the answer, then now the designers have all these tools back, and we can get these mechanics that maybe haven't been used since MOP because we've been weak-ordering them ever since, and now we get to solve them with our brains again.
And he even mentioned too, he said like, well, there's a lot of swirlies now.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing, like, oh, we can always default to this and a few other things because you know you're not gonna solve that with WeakOR, so we can add fights where that's not a thing. But you know, you remove that, that friction of there's too many swirlies goes away. And I think there's assignment, like doing a lot of these assignment bosses without a WeakOR that could work would be like really fun. Like it's fun to do that. It's fun when you have 5 people that need to soak something, like the last phase of Galliways. There's a frontal on a side of a room, and 2 people die, and right now WeakOR is just like, okay, well then we're gonna sign back up. So these 2 people get a big green thing on their screen, go soak that. That is something where that fight is spread out enough where you could actually communicate that. We need 2 people on the right to back up because 2 soakers are dead. Who can do it? This person says something, this person says something. Now obviously you're not gonna have that kind of communication like heroic or normal, maybe it won't be in comms, whatever, but in Mythic,
Okay.
that's perfectly reasonable, right? In a lot of the things, like we could probably count honestly on 1, maybe 2 hands over the last like 4 or 5 years, how many bosses would you meaningfully would have to have a mechanic change? But they are very impactful, very memorable, and they have been purely defined by that. Are you worried at all about the communities? And this has certainly been ramping up over time. Like you mentioned, even for us, we were much more just do the mechanic 4 or 5 years ago than we are now. Are you worried that there has been this built-in reliance on it that might be hard to shake when creating new raid bosses?
Absolutely. And I think that some of that gets back to us knowing that we need to really ease into this. That any world where we just kind of rip the Band-Aid off and say, all right, have fun,
honestly,
we're in a new world, as opposed to building up more built-in functionality, starting to have clearer visuals, simplify some mechanics, and then
Yeah, visuals.
and have classes designed around.
They did
well,
really
we
good
know
job
that
with the
this is
visuals
possible.
now.
As long as people are set up for success, I think we'll be fine. Certainly, if we were to disable any functionality and then players went into a new tier and like we're just wiping the bosses and like they used to clear heroic comfortably and now they're like brick walled halfway through heroic, yeah, players like that would be a source of tremendous frustration. But we know that we need to avoid that by any means possible, and we have a lot of work to do before we get there.
Something that really encourages me is the ping system. That seems like such a perfect way to give us an option to identify where we're going, right? You can just ping where you're going, and then you don't have to, try and communicate with words. Hey, I'm going to move over to the left 20 yards, right? Just ping where I'm going, and that opens up an ability to solve these again in a YOLO style, right? Rather than an
I think your guild did that.
Yeah.
So the Echo of Neltharion, right?
Yeah, we just pinged it.
Yeah, so famously, like, everyone had the maps for that. Like, here's your exact spot you go, and then his guild was like, you know what, everyone just ping your spot. Mostly it gets covered, people go to the same spot every pull. But if you see 2 pings in a spot, 1 person has to move, right? And that could largely solve a mechanic with just something that's already built into the game.
Yeah, I think and the ping system is something we've also talked about looking to improve and to like kind of broaden the sorts of things you can do with it to give people more tools to solve these problems in a coordinated way, but using their own skill and expression instead of another tool.
When I think of World of Warcraft, I'm always thinking back to when I first started playing the game, and there was this really exciting moment where I looked at it and I'm like, oh my god, I can make this game look however I want, right? Like I can put this here, I can have an add-on that tells me what time it is in London, what time it is in Darnassus, right? I can have all the world clocks there if I want. I can have 3 different bars at the bottom of my screen. I can do whatever I want there, and to me that's always been a strength, not a weakness of WoW. So I think there's a lot of people that disagree with me on that, but then there's also people that they hear about Blizzard thinking about restricting add-ons and they're worried about losing that. Is there any intention to go after any of that kind of customization?
Not whatsoever. And in fact, we're doing everything we can and we would do everything we can down the line to minimize any collateral damage to them. But the goal is anything that's cosmetic should be completely fair game. All informational stuff that's out of combat, like again, you have RP add-ons, help things that are tracking, helping with professions, tracking gathering nodes, helping with quests, like you name it, a bunch of accessibility add-ons. All of those, like there's nothing harmful whatsoever about any of them. The only thing is at the very end of the day, once we feel like we've done enough on our end to improve baseline functionality, what we'd be looking at is the ability to parse real-time combat events in a way that drives, problem solving on the fly.
So it's kind of, we build the scaffolding to then be able to take away the existing WeakOR solutions that we have for these. How much of this is, so the thing that's excited me also about edit mode has been, it's so clearly based on what the community has learned over 20 years, right? It's like, oh, the community has revolved around this as a solution for presenting this information. Let's give them that face in the UI rather than making them download something. How much of this initiative is still going to be based on what the community says, how the community reacts, versus which of these things are already kind of locked in decisions?
I'd say basically nothing here is locked in. Really, my hope today is to kind of begin a conversation about that direction and what areas are wrong, what areas maybe have more to do to
That's so much HP.
and what areas we might be wrong on and should reconsider. So I think at the end of the day, this game belongs first and foremost to our millions of players. We're trying to serve them as best we can in the long run. And I think our sense is that for many players, the feeling that they have to download and use certain add-ons in order to play the game competitively isn't really part of what's attractive about the game or healthy in the long run. And so if we can pull things back to a place where add-ons are available for those who want to use them, but people aren't feeling pressured by their groups, by just the natural demands of competition and not wanting to lose out to someone who's using more advantages, then that's going to be the healthier route in the long run.
So if I was the kind of person who wanted to write a 10-paragraph forum manifesto, this would be one of the topics to do it on, right?
Absolutely. We will be reading, we will be listening. I think this is a long path ahead. And yeah, just curious to kick off the conversation and hear how people feel about it. So Rotation Assist is coming in 11.1.7, which is going to be hitting the PTR in the very near future. Can't wait to hear people's feedback as they're able to hop on and check it out. We'll be listening closely so we can make it the best it can be for everybody. It's also been amazing to just get a chance to talk through kind of the history of add-ons in WoW, where they are today, and where they might be going in the future. Thank you guys for coming out. It's really been a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us here. Really looking forward to see what the community has to say about how much they want more of these casts, maybe monthly, maybe bi-weekly, weekly, whatever you guys think, put it in the comments.
Daily.
I wanted to check, so Beliard, why did he say that?
Sure.
Okay, so the credit here goes to PC Gamer and Heather Newman, who did the interview. Her patch 11.1.5 report was titled World of Warcraft's latest patch is a bug extravaganza, the likes of which I haven't seen in my 21 years playing WoW. Pretty strong headline. Her new article then links Taliesin's Blizzard blew it, and my World of Warcraft development is clearly broken. So those two videos, it's all kind of spicy stuff, and this is what she brought to Ian. And when she did, he said this, quote, "The issues of Nightfall getting stuck and
PC Gamer. So when did they say that? Did he even say that? Mm.
Bugging out for players in the first couple of days, that's something we need to improve on. We fixed it as soon as we could, but understandably, that's not the experience that we're hoping for anyone to have. It's not the experience our players are expecting or deserve when they log in on patch day and they're excited to check out the new thing. Okay, that is a nice sentiment from Ian, but we're, I think, soon going to see that for Ian, this is really a near impossible situation. As an example, he said this: not the experience we're hoping to deliver. Of course, by now, it sure does feel like they're running in hope. Patch 11.05, 11.07, 11.1, and 11.1.5 all launched with substantial technical and design problems, many of which were caught on the public test realm. Now, I don't say hope to tone or to word police Ian. After all, this is just him talking to a journalist. It's not him issuing a carefully considered, perfectly written statement. However, if Ian was to say experience we plan to deliver instead of hope, I think it would have brought the real problem into focus here, because any plan that they've had has failed back to back to back. Maybe hope is the only thing that's remaining, and that's my real point here. The word hope makes us empathize with those on the ground delivering the game, and I really do, because the reality, in my opinion here, is that with their current constraints, Ian Hazzikostas and his team cannot fix this problem. That truly is what I think. Heather pressed him on the bugs, and I think his responses tell us a lot about how development is going. We are committed to quality, and we know that quantity doesn't matter if the stuff isn't functional, and if the game isn't predictable and reliable, and doesn't feel like a polished experience. Those are Ian's words, and honestly, they're kind of painful. I wonder what the word commitment actually means here, because
Word
that's
bound.
multiple patches in a row. Now, being fair, WoW is reliably unpredictable and predictably unreliable, so I suppose he's writing away. Now, as for part of why, Ian says hotfixes can be a little bit of an issue. Things can break, they can be fixed, but in this case, many things were hotfixed in late 11.1. By then, 11.1.5 was locked in, and the systems they have to propagate changes can, well, be useful, but also cut both ways. I suppose I could TLDR by just saying merge conflicts and chaos in a very complex codebase. Maybe it's the type of thing they can't easily test. Ian did note they work closely with QA. He talked about how they track their escape rate of bugs and how they want that to be in the low single digits. The escape rate is basically just the percentage of known stuff that ends up making it to live. And he did say, we want to do better every time compared to how we did in the last. And I absolutely believe him. I think he does want, I think they all want that. But I think by now it's coming clear that desire and hope are actually irrelevant here. Worse than irrelevant, they can be dangerous. Basically, it appears to be a technical problem, a software problem. Engineering is hard. Engineering on a massively complex live game is far harder. Doing that when you have a live build that is consistently being hotfixed, a PTR build of your next patch, an internal PTR of the patch after that, and then all of the different development environments that, your team are actually using to make the game, well, that is extremely hard. And I'm not saying that to minimize the problem you are facing that's pissing people off. I'm saying this to clarify the problem. You see, I titled that last video, World of Warcraft development is clearly broken. I didn't title it, These Damn Lazy Devs Don't Give a Shit. And I did that for a reason. But I think there is a challenging human angle here that's unfortunate, and it's going to be hard for Blizzard to deal with. And it's this: the Emperor has no clothes. Keep that in mind for this quote, which I'll now read out. If there's ever an update where we know there are serious issues, we're not going to push it out just because we've set this 8-week target.
right, I am back. I was thinking actually maybe I'll try some 1117. So let me let me just write it. Okay. 1117. Okay. Oh, I forgot to close the music. So I think I'm gonna test out the Lorewalking. Okay. We have Lorewalking. We have Lorewalking. He's either here with his books and all. Or maybe it's set in Orgrimmar as well. Be careful, this is gonna be a spoiler area from now until maybe the end of the stream. So yeah, keep an eye out for that. So we have a Lowwalker. Yeah, I'm gonna be doing the voice and everything. Oh wait, maybe can I use I want the add-on though for this. Is it going to work? Great, I don't have it. Dialogue UI. I mean, honestly, I gotta download that. So, CurseForge. Let me check. Yep, there it is. Yeah, I mean, I gotta have this. I gotta have this. God, why my hair is full with clumps? I really need to cut it. Oh, are you also taking a well-deserved break? There's nothing like catching up on some reading in the fresh air with a great view, but I will not mind some company. Would you care to hear a story? First of all, what is Lorewalking? Lorewalking can mean many things, my friend. For me, it is the gathering of stories, the many versions of stories, often historical deeds of the heroes of Azeroth, stories lost to history, stories so fragmented by time and space they are difficult for most to piece together. For you, it means hearing those stories. Ask me to tell you a tale, and I humbly believe it will be as though you are experiencing it yourself. Ask about something else. Okay, so Lowwalking. What stories can you tell me? Ooh. Okay. Well, first of all, let me just Oh, LOL is sending visitors my way now? Lorewalking Cho loves a deep belly laugh. Oh, like now. Of course she is, but she's correct. The only thing I love more than gathering stories is telling them. Sit down, let me share a tale with you. Okay, so what stories can you tell me? So there's three stories right now. We have Zalatath, we have Ethereals, and we have the Lich King. Zalatath, the Harbinger, once known as the Blade of the Black Empire. Her history is a well-kept secret, but her words and deeds have affected so many that she is impossible to ignore. Her story must be told. And we get a toy. It's called Echo of the Zalatath, Blade of the Black Empire. Call upon your memory of Zalatath. Her voice will occasionally echo with glee when you kill a foe. Okay. Then we have Ethereals, which is obviously the most exciting out of all three stories. Mysterious and elusive, the Ethereals that have traveled to our world speak little of their history, yet there is much to be learned from the few things they do choose to share. And we get Karesh Memory Crystal. Take on the appearance of a Kareshi. Ooh, Kareshi. And then we have Lich King, Arthas Menethil. It is said that when he was born, the very forest of Lordaeron whispered his name. But did the forest of his youth know what he would eventually grow to become? And we get Royal Visage. Remember the tale of Arthas Menethil. You take on his visage. I wonder if we take his visage as the Lich King or as Arthas. Anyways, I'm obviously gonna try. I'm gonna start off with Ethereals, because I think that's what we know the least amount. We obviously know most of the things about the Lich King. As a Shadow Priest, or actually, yeah, as a Shadow Priest, I do know the story of Zalatath, but maybe you don't know, so we're gonna see that as well. And yeah, Ethereals, we don't really know much about them. What is their connection to the brokers? And yeah, so let's start with Ethereals. Wait, where is the hide UI? Wait, I don't have my hide UI macro? Um, Console.
Hello. Eyes open. Always be learning.
Uh,
Every good story needs a hero. Thank you for listening to my tale, friend. Greetings. Jade Serpent guide you. Who are the ethereals? Enshrouded in mystery. We first encountered them in Outland, but that was not where they originated. Their old world, Karesh, was destroyed long ago by a monstrous creature of the void.
ooh. Yeah, Dimensions.
Left to their own devices, the ethereals traveled the cosmos in search of trade, knowledge, and vengeance for their beloved home. Hello.
Tell me about the Protectorate.
Now listen closely to my tale. Our story begins with the Protectorate, a group of ethereals who had gathered in Neverstone.
So are we in Netherstorm? Mm-hmm.
How does today find you? Every good story needs a hero.
What do you know about Ethereals, Fleshling? You undoubtedly view us all in the same light, oblivious to the conflicts and struggles between the differing factions. Perhaps it is time for an introduction. I am Commander Emir of the Protectorate. Also, your only hope of resolving the infestation of both void creatures and Ethereum in this area. What are Ethereum? The Ethereum were the ruling class of Ethereals on my home of Karesh. Tragically, we were forced to evacuate Karesh shortly before Void Lord Dimensius unleashed his Void armies upon the world and utterly decimated all that stood in his way. For his act, the Ethereum vowed vengeance. They have been tracking Dimensius ever since. The Protectorate, however, were not a reaction to Dimensius. We were a reaction to the Ethereum. I don't understand. What do you mean, Emir? The Ethereum have grown dark, twisted. Vengeance has become their only resource, and any that anyone, I guess. And Anyone who will stand in their way or not join their cause are considered enemies. Many saw that the Ethereum were plummeting into madness and left. Several of the Nexus princesses of the Ethereum Council abandoned the Ethereum to form other groups and factions with different goals. The Consortium are one such example of an offshoot group. The Protectorate are another. Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. So it's like the consortium. So what is your purpose? We feel that the Ethereum are as great a threat to our existence as Dimensius. Both must be stopped. I think I understand now. Can I help with any of this? The Ethereum and Void creatures are a threat to our survival as well. Okay. Directly south of here, you'll find the Ethereum staging grounds. The Ethereum are there preparing for something. Perhaps an assault on all trees. We can't take any chances though, please. Break through the perimeter defenses and take out their training facility. Once you have destroyed their soldiers and Captain Zovax, locate Ethereum transporter Zeta and use it to establish contact with me to get to your next set of orders. Alright.
A ruling class once united in purpose had fractured. The Protectorate suspected treachery, but more investigation was necessary.
Interesting. Oh, that's the boss. Oh yeah, so that's their training facility. If you get lost as well, you can ask him, I guess. I'm a little lost. Where does this part of the story take place again?
Always be learning.
Oh. Okay.
How does today find you?
Okay. Look around you, Fleshling. Very close to this transporter should be an Ethereum data cell. Locate that data cell, open it, and retrieve its contents. Okay.
The Ethereals are meticulous record keepers. Evidence of the Ethereum's treachery had to exist somewhere.
Okay. So we gotta find that data cell. Is that all? It appears to be. Have you recovered the data cell? You hold the data cell out so Amir can read the plans. Nothing, damn them. They are clever, but not as clever as Amir. What I'm about to ask you to do is quite dangerous. I'll understand if you don't want to continue, Flashling. Wow, he's quite a snob. Potential for brain damage equals high. They're using relays to transfer information around the staging grounds. There is only one way for you to see these relays and extract the information they hold. Unfortunately, doing so may cause you irreparable brain damage. Wow, okay. If you are still interested, you'll need to slay Ethereum here at the staging grounds and take their essences. Once you have an essence, dig it down. It will temporarily allow you to see an Ethereum relay, giving you enough time to destroy a relay and extract its information.
Of course, it was not that simple. The Ethereum used relays to exchange information, which meant that one had to intercept the relays to extract that information as evidence.
Have you recovered the relay data? The Protectorate's reason for existence is now fully realized. The Ethereum are not here to hunt dimensions, they're here to become void. They're manipulating the void energy at this Maniforge to bond their own energy into a creature known as a Nexus Stalker. They are undoubtedly using a proto accelerator to complete the transformation. Delivering the message, the Ethereum are using void energy to turn themselves into an abomination known as a Nexus Stalker. We must destroy the Maniforge energy tube powering the proto accelerator. I'm sending one of the demolitionists out to place a disruption device. Just make sure no harm comes to him as he's placing down the disruptor. Keep him protected. He will not fight back if enemies attack him, as he's only a holographic image. But the image can be destroyed.
Unthinkable, but true. The Ethereum was attempting to embrace the very same void that had destroyed the ethereal homeworld so long ago. Their efforts had to be stopped.
Mm-hmm. By the second son of Karesh. Look at this place. I can only imagine what Zalhadar is planning. Come on, let's keep going. Oh, so Karesh has 2 sons? With this much void waste and runoff, a toxic void horror can be too far behind. Well, I'm trying. Look there, fleshling, Zalhadar's conduits. He's keeping well fed. What, there? Oh, yeah. Alright, keep me protected while I plant this disruptor. This shouldn't take very long. Mm-hmm. Done. Back up, back up. Okay. Well, what's happening? Looks like my work here is done. Report back to the hollow image of Amir over this transponder. Thanks to you, their plans are in no ruin. Now only one thing remains, Salhadar. Ooh, damn, that's pretty nice. I have in my possession another disruptor, one capable of destroying the 3 conduits that surround Salhadar. Once the conduits are destroyed, Salhadar's protective force fields will be down. For this act, he will strike at you with a ferocity you have never before witnessed. Oh, players. If you're willing to rid of the world of Salhadar, I'll give you the disruptor. I do believe that deserves a bit of a nice video. Wow, look at that, man. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool. I think there's something attacking me. Damn it. Alrighty, so I am supposed to take this out. Oh no. Ooh, Nexus King Salhadar. Oh damn. The ethereal will prevail. Interesting. I want to kill that congealed void horror. It gives me a toy. It gives me an item. I don't meet the requirements? Excuse me? Is he really dead and destroyed? It has been 1,000 years, maybe more, since Sanhadar began his crusade to exterminate all that will stand in his way. I can hardly believe that this is the last we'll see of him. You have done all of us a great service, and for that you will be rewarded. So we can get a staff, or we can get a staff.
Although Salhadar may have been defeated, there was an even greater threat to contend with.
Dimensius? I like how everything is in like focus or whatever. I have more questions about Ethereals. Tell me more about Netherstorm. According to locals, the shadow fragments that make up Netherstorm used to be a large island called Varahion. This was of course before the planet of Draenor shattered into what is now called Outland. Here the energies of the twisting nether and the physical realm blend together into the most chaotic landscape. Some have discovered ways to harness the twisting nether's energy, though not necessarily for good. The Blood Elves, led by Kel'Thas Sunstrider, built massive mana forges here, using them to siphon magic. The more they bled the nether, the more unstable the region became, as you can see. I have another question. I have more questions about Ethereal. Tell me more about Nexus King Salhadar. Nexus King Salhadar ruled the Ethereals after Dimensius destroyed their home of Karesh. Intent on his people's survival, Salhadar led them to other worlds. He encouraged those loyal to him to seek revenge, even if they needed to use the void to achieve it. But the power of the void overcame even his desire to seek vengeance on Dimensius. Power, it seemed, was all he craved now. Alright, tell me more about Dimensius.
Long ago, Dimensius shattered the ethereal homeworld of Karesh. And now he threatened Outland as well. The Protectorate would not let this happen.
Recipe for Distraction. Atop Manaforge Altars lies the tier in the nether that Void Lord Dimensius came through. That tier provides Dimensius with a link to the void, rendering him immune to physical harm. If we can get a lock on the conduit that Dimensius is using to keep himself phased out of this plane of existence, we can destroy it and then destroy Dimensius. To do this, we are going to first need you to collect fragments of Dimensius from the void creatures that he sends out to do his dirty work. Recover 4 fragments of Dimensius. Cool. I like how they are calling us fleshling because they obviously do not have flesh. Well, it appears it's taking quite a long of time. Alright, Dabiri. Excellent. With these fragments, we can calibrate a bomb that will destroy the void conduit at Waltris. With the void conduit destroyed, Dimensius' connection with the void will be severed and he will be left defenseless. Your brave actions have forced Emir to react. He has deployed Captain Said and the Avengers. What? The Avengers? Now, all that is left to do is destroy Dimensius. When you are ready, I will call for Said. If he's not currently fighting another battle, he will be awaiting orders from you directly east of here. Let him know when you are ready to fight, and he will put his troops in motion. I wish you luck, Fleshling. We have hunted Dimensius for 1,000 years.
The Protectorate used the fragments of Dimensius to disable a conduit that gave Dimensius a link to the void and physical immunity. Only then could they launch a final assault.
Alright, Said. Oh, here, the Avengers have assembled. Fleshling, I am Captain Said of the Protectorate, and these soldiers that stand by me are my Avengers. We await orders from the Fleshling who destroy the Void Conduit. On that Fleshling's word, we will make our way up to Dimensius' lair and wait for the word to make a final strike. Too long it has been, the Void Lord will soon face our combined might. I am the Fleshling, Said, let's go. Oh, I can't. You heard the Fleshling, move out! Wow, isn't that spooky? That is so spooky, man. Where am I supposed to go? Oh, here? Okay. This is it. We charge on your orders, just say the word and my man and I will engage. I am ready, let's make history. It's now or never, soldiers, let's do this. For courage, for the protectorate. I mean, I don't believe we're gonna kill the Mansius, are we? This time for your distraction has finally come, Dimensus. Time only has meaning. What did he say? Dude, it's so creepy. I mean, look at his eyes. Look at his eyes. Well, I mean, I gotta show this. So creepy. But I don't believe that's his real form. I hunger. Feed me the power of this forge, my children. These candles are pretty cool. Woohoo! We are victorious! The Mencius is no more. Report back to the professor, hero.
Jade Serpent guide you.
Alright. Dimensius the All-Devouring. For 1,000 years, all we have known is conflict. We have defended our people from the attacks of both void creature and ethereal alike. Now one of our most hated enemies lies dead. Finally, I give you the thanks of 100 million ethereals, Fleshling. And we get Dabiri's Enigma. Increased dodge. Quite useless.
The Mencius was defeated, though some questioned whether he was truly gone.
I mean, he's not gone, is he?
Hello. Every good story needs a hero.
With Salhadar and Dimensius defeated, it seemed the largest problems facing the ethereals had at last been solved. Alright, now we go to Lorewalker. While the Protectorate of Outland may have stopped Dimensius and Salhadar, the Ethereum remained, and as Salhadar had wished, they chose to embrace the void. Not just embrace it, become it. It twisted them into shadows of themselves, consumed with the pursuit of power. But there was one ethereal Locust Walker that sought to harness the void for more altruistic purposes. His story is entwined with an elf from our world, Alleria Windrunner. Follow Cho's guidance to learn about void ethereals. Contains a piece of equipment lovingly preserved from battles past. We get Valor Stones and we get Weather Undermine Crest.
The Ethereum may have sought the void for the sake of power, but one ethereal learned to wield it for more altruistic purposes.
Tell me about the void ethereals. So it's now we go into a second story.
At least he would have us believe. We first met Locust Walker on Argus, when he reunited with his former student, Alleria Windrunner.
Uh-huh. Dun, 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 dun.
Greetings.
And regards, Locust Walker taught me all that I know about the void, and he still has more to teach me. If he's here, the ethereal's presence only intrigues me further. I have thought him the only one of his kind, but now that I have seen another tangling with void, come, we must play his game if we want to learn what he knows. He appears to have gone toward the Umbra Hollows to the north. We get Veldar Unite.
Aim true. This way.
I have something I want to show you, but we mustn't be seen. Follow.
Explain yourself first.
Such impatience. I believe you will find the answers you seek on the other side.
Show
Get ready to see Seed of Triumvirate again. And I'm obviously talking about M+.
I hope to find at least one promising soul on this rock.
I have not turned away from that path. You know why I resisted.
An intruder.
What are you hiding?
My, what is this?
I need to finish what I started, Locust Walker.
Can you though? My, what is this?
What are you talking about?
Why, your maid, of course.
How does he feel about your choices?
I think we have done this before.
Use every weapon at your disposal. Keep your gaze.
I think I understand what he was trying to show us. I feel a surge of power building ahead. They must be cultivating the void, calling it here. We need to stop them before they plunge this entire city into shadow. Find the source and cut it off by any means necessary. Locust Walker and I have unfinished business to attend to.
The shadow. Terrellian trusts me to make hard decisions, and I him.
I'm not talking about How can you expect to embrace the shadow with the light shining so brightly at your side?
Without the light, there is no shadow, teacher.
Try not to waste my time.
As you have surely gathered by now, a certain subset of my people have tragically succumbed to the call of the void. I had hoped to find more of who possess the necessary strength of mine. I am disappointed to find such an utter lack of resistance. It cannot be helped. To advance your cause and mine, we will need to eradicate these weak-willed beings.
Simply fascinating. Embrace the end of all things. You are out of your depth, fleshly.
I see your soul, and it is black.
The mobs are pretty easy to kill, by the way.
Locust Walker had hoped that there were others of his kind interested in his studies, but the Shadow God was too far gone. They had let the call of the void consume them entirely. And this was all the evidence Valeria needed to prove just how dangerous a
I come, Dark Master. It is a good day for a hunt. We each walk a line. Choose yours.
I represent.
After some consideration, I have decided to allow Larry another opportunity to pursue her destiny. I suppose you want to know what that means, mortal. Meet us deep in the Shadowguard camp ahead. My brethren are preparing a summons that will provide adequate energy for Windrunner to begin again. Witness what happens when you harness the Void's power. Defeat Nalafoth and collect his heart. Though only a demigod, Nalathoth's presence haunts the dark corners of Eredath. Uh-huh.
May you keep your sanity. Well, Windrunner, what say you?
Show me the path. I am ready to walk it.
Right this way.
I come, Dark Master.
Yes, this specimen will do. Prepare yourself, Illyria. Your friend here will hold its attention.
All right, Illyria.
That thing! It's calling to me! I can't!
I curse you.
Ooh.
Be gone, wretched darkness!
Be sure to collect our prize, Fleshling. I will tend to Illyria. The heart of a demigod. This is no mere token, Illyria. Take it, and you will be one step closer to your destiny.
I understand. Thank you, both of you. What news?
I see the path clearly. Heart of Nalathol. A pulsing core of void energy that buzzes uncomfortably in your hands.
Farewell.
Illyria takes the heart in her hands. So this is the next step. Thank you for bringing me to this point.
We do what we must for those we love.
How does today find you?
Lorewalker's intentions do indeed seem to be good, though there are those who question both him and Illyria to this day. Again, we get Valorstone, Weathercrest, and Lorewalker's Crate of Memorabilia.
James, unlike the Shadow God, Lucas Walker mastered the void without succumbing to its whispers. And he then taught Aleria how to do the same.
Okay. So now we're gonna learn about the brokers. Nice. The ethereals are most fascinating indeed, but in my studies I have encountered another race of creatures who share many similarities with the ethereals. I feel we should speak of them as well, the brokers. They share a nomadic nature and desire to collect rare and unusual antiquities, and a penchant for trade. Yet the brokers do not exist on Azeroth, instead they dwell in the Shadowlands, the land of death. Follow Cho's guidance to learn about the brokers. Again, we're gonna get memorabilia, gear, undermine crest, and valor stones.
Farewell. Interestingly, the ethereal share many of their unique traits with another group we have encountered, the brokers.
The brokers. Alright.
Hello.
Tell me more about the brokers. Are we going to Shadowlands now?
Yet, the brokers were first encountered not in any ordinary city, but in Oribos, a city in the realm of death. There, they offered trade, bargains, and opportunities.
Opportunities. Host Tarella. Welcome, O Walker. Please avail yourself of our amenities, or as our gracious host might say, may the purpose be your way. The Alley Cat of Oribos. Oh, Mole Walker, I have a message. An individual has a proposition for you specifically. I know nothing of the details, only that they ask you to meet them toward the back of the Idylia. Meet with the mysterious contact in Oribos.
This realm offers infinite opportunities.
Uh-huh.
You have arrived.
Cool.
In need of a guide?
It is a pleasure to meet you.
I am Aldelir, a humble collector of artifacts, here to present you with an opportunity. Solir of Cartel Soul seeks to acquire a dangerous relic. It would benefit us both if she did not.
Solia. Wait. Solia is the one in Tazavesh? Or is it the one? No, sorry, it's Iso, the one. Yeah, okay. It's the one from Tazavesh.
I know the way to whatever you seek.
Insider trading.
Thanks you for your patronage.
I am the foremost expert on broker culture. However, relationships between cartels are complicated and unstable. Cartel So holds a small presence here in Orbos, which means the other cartels may have knowledge that I do not. Ask around with your renown, surely they'll have whatever information that we are missing. Speak with various broker cartels around Orbos. Things best kept dark. The leader of Cartel So represents a grave danger to the Shadowlands, Mowalker. Her name is Solea. She seeks to assemble an artifact of the first ones and use its power for selfish ends. Pieces of the relic are said to be hidden on your homeworld. Brokers have never found our way there, but if Solea does, then Azeroth too is imperiled. We must intercept her. There is cargo nearby, marked for cartels, so perhaps the manifest will give us clues as to their leader whereabouts.
Farewell, my friend.
Overseer Teridon, Bazaar Master. Welcome to our bazaar, my friend. We are here to serve. What can you tell me about cartels? So,
Cartel avoids meddling in the affairs of others. It is to protect business. I am sure you understand.
I definitely do. Alright, let's ask Cartel Ba. Moonwalker, how may I be of service to one of your kind? I trust my kin have found ways to make your stay here more comfortable. Like you, this is a temporary home for us. It seems our own purposes intersect here. Your kind are guests here? My people, like you, are visitors to this ancient engine. Of course, we have been here a span longer, thus our relationship with the attendants run deeper. We will be happy to assist as liaisons if it would aid your cause.
Until our next transaction.
What can you tell me about Cartel So?
We have little to gain from lesser cartels. Whatever cartel Al and cartel So are bickering over, it is not our concern.
Wow, they have been all so helpful. It's unreal. um... Oh, Cartel Zorzorg. Master of Conflict. Ah, this is the PvP one. What can you tell me about Cartel So?
As though the different broker cartels were just as varied as the Ethereals, as was each cartel's motive for doing business.
Also, he waved me off shooing. It seems as though the different broker cartels were just as varied as the Ethereals, as was each cartel's motive for doing business. Dude, how many cartels are there? Welcome, stranger. We are at your service. What are you offering here? Hopefully, anything you may need as an artisan. We brokers travel the universe and learn from the masters of every reality we can find. This allows us to cater our offerings to your needs. Our members have begun to master the various professions that your kind finds worthy. Here you'll find them willing to aid you in your development as an artisan. We are sourcing new recipes as we speak. Please browse at your leisure. You won't be disappointed. Oh, I didn't have to click that anyways. What can you tell me? What was that? A wording? Uh-huh. Well, interesting, I guess. It's not like we learn much. Let's see now. I have to find this one. Can I find the shipping manifest?
My time is valuable, you know.
Oh, shipping documents. Soldana.
Speak your peace.
That was from PTR, wasn't it? All right, I'll delete.
Trust me, I am a professional.
How rude. They should be aware of who they are talking to. I apologize for my kin, Mowalker. Have you found anything? Tazavesh, okay. Tazavesh, the Vale Market. An interesting choice of locations. We brokers have found that it is in our best interest to remain mobile and discreet. A number of our cities and outposts are tucked away in the in between, capable of moving from place to place. Much to my chagrin, it seems I have lost track of Tazavesh. I believe our best course of action is to ask Cardelta for access. They pride themselves on keeping track of such things. Let's try our luck with those at the night market in Ravendreth. They may be more forthcoming than their Orbos kin.
Tazavesh can be an elusive city to reach, but surely someone at the night market will aid our journey.
How does today find you?
Oh, tell me more about Oribos. Oribos is an ancient city at the heart of the Shadowlands, land of the deceased. All souls who enter the Shadowlands must first visit the city and be judged by being called the Arbiter. The Arbiter judges each soul in return, choosing where in the Shadowlands it will spend its eternity before sending it onward. The city itself is inhabited mostly by the Arbiter's attendants, but it serves as a nexus between all of the Shadowlands' many domains. As such, it is a useful gathering place for traders such as the brokers. Uh-huh. Tell me more about the night market.
The night market resided in Revendreth, another land of the dead. It was also perhaps the place where coordinates for the mysterious city of Tazavesh could be found.
More Walker. My friends here have been unusually taciturn. Perhaps you will have better luck. Tell me what you need, my friend.
Ah, greetings, small walker. Have you come to border? I have many identities in my possession that could be yours for the right price. Tell me more. I can easily demonstrate the worth of my services. You are Andrigat. I know much of your many ventures of the world of Azeroth. You have. What is that? Ah. You have slain mighty dragons and other fantastic beasts across the world. You arrived in Reverdreth in search of anima. I could go on if you like, but I reserve my services for paying customers. Seeking smugglers. You seek information that requires a transaction. Um, above my station. While I indeed know the location of the Vale Market, I fear I can do little in terms of providing you with transportation to it. In return for your assistance with a task, I can send you to someone who can assist us both. There is a bounty hunter and transfer station Ta, a broker enclave in Bastion. He's better suited to help you, and he owes me a shipment. Meet with Togu and tell him that Tanla sent you. For your convenience, I can offer use of a portal. After all, we are partners, yes?
Always a pleasure. Your help is most appreciated. I am quite overwhelmed at the moment, as you can see. How may I assist?
Well, where's the portal? Oh, it's there? Uh-huh. Okay. At least we don't have to do any flying. Bastion. Bastion.
Was not so easily procured. Thus began a journey to yet another realm of the dead. This time, the idyllic hills of Bastia, home of the winged Kyrian.
May I tempt you with my wares?
Tanora requested something very specific on behalf of a client. The Kyrian have been working on a new type of centurion they call an aquilon. An aquilon, I believe. I sent some of our trade specialists to retrieve the prototype in question, but they have yet to return. Until I have the item, there is obviously no way I can ship it to Tanla. Perhaps we can help one another. If you can locate the Quilon and bring it here, I will help you reach Tazavesh.
Remember, everything has value. It seems we may have to use force. I am excited to see you in action. A sharp strike to the head always works.
What?
Buttons! Quickly, the buttons! Pull on one of the levers. Start pressing buttons.
All right.
Everything is negotiable. Perhaps now would be a good time for me to mention that I may not be quite welcome in Tazavesh.
Your side of the deal is done, Walker. Now for your payment.
Way I can travel beside you unrecognized. We will meet aboard the ferry.
My cartel runs a ferry that travels between Oribos and Tazavesh. Its purpose is to transport cargo, but as in all things, there are exceptions. Take this coin to Tamari and you'll be provided safe passage to the market.
Use luck.
It was time to return to Oribos. Let's have Mishi take us there.
Mishi. Oh, cool.
Passage to Tazavesh was gained at last.
You have my undivided attention.
Let me guess, Tauku sent you my way, yes? Tamari looks at the coin you offer, so you seek travel to Tazavesh. Not something we'll typically offer an outsider, but since payment has been accounted for, it will be my pleasure to assist you. Step aboard and do remember to keep any appendages inside the craft at all times. The currents of the in-between can be fickle.
Do see me again. I live to serve.
Take me to Tazavesh.
Large, capable of traversing the in-between. It is technology such as this that reminds me of the Ethereals, my friend.
Ethereals, He starts planting his seeds. I'm not gonna spoil, but we're gonna see it soon. We arrived, friend.
Altair was a most curious sort, but he offered a way into the city and a deeper look at the inner workings of Prokop culture.
Zomazal?
There is a price for my aid.
Old. Only citizens and registered clients are allowed through the entrance. I seek entrance.
All non-citizens must accept the required customs check. We must tend to a matter of great importance inside. Perhaps an exception can be made? All non-citizens must accept the required customs check.
Mm-mm.
If you insist, customs it is. Follow me, Lorewalker. Not a problem. We will simply follow another plan.
We're not gonna pay.
I know the way to whatever you seek.
Altair would eventually gain entry to Tazavesh and put an end to Solea's evil. But that is a story for
Okay.
For now, there is another broker of whom we must speak. Her name was Venari.
Venari.
Much like Aldalir, she worked on her own, and she required our aid.
Nice. Nice. It's really taking a long time, by the way. So yeah, no way we're gonna do anything else. We're gonna just finish this, hopefully. Start recording.
Greetings.
Is there anything else we need to know? Oh, tell me more about Dimensius. Um, Dimensius the All-Devouring is a terrifying entity, a void lord that destroyed the ethereal homeworld of Karesh long ago. Little is known of how we first discovered Karesh, but the result was much the same as you see here. The world was rent asunder. Karesh was not the only place attacked by this being. A world called Karkara also suffered, but the narrow Ture arrived to protect it. Ture sacrificed its own life to save the world's inhabitants. Unfortunately, the Ethereals were not as fortunate. The Ethereals escaped Karesh and swore vengeance on Dimensius for what he has done, but that quest for vengeance will soon turn to darker pursuits. Tell me more about Argus. Argus was the homeworld of the Eredar, including the Draenei. Its fate is most tragic indeed. The Eredar were adept wielders of arcane magic, as you see, and had the misfortune of attracting the attention of Sargeras, leader of the Burning Legion. In exchange for the Eredar's loyalty, he offered them untold power. There were those who accepted his offer, and one who saw a vision of the truth. Were they to accept his bargain, they would become demons themselves. And so they fled. But Argus itself was devoured by the Legion, torn into great chunks of fell-riddled masses, floating in the great dark beyond. As for the Eredar, they suffered the fate that was foreseen, their civilization corrupted just as terribly as their world. What else can we see? Illyria spent many years fighting the Burning Legion in the Twisting Nether, where time flows differently. Eventually, she was captured by the Legion and held on their prison world of Niskara. Locus Walker was also a prisoner there. Too weak at the time to fight himself, he taught Illyria to harness the power of the Void, which she did quite successfully. She defeated the Inquisitor who had been torturing them, and so began her education in the Void from Locus Walker. And the Shadow Guard. The Shadow Guard are ethereals who succumbed to the call of the Void. We encountered them first on Argus, the corrupted homeworld of the Eredar. There they sought to call the Void to Eredath and plunge what remained of the city into shadow. Thankfully, their efforts to swallow Argus into darkness were altered by Illyria Widner and another hero. But the Shadow Guard Ethereals remain a threat that have yet to be fully stopped. Indeed, it seems as though Locus Walker is perhaps the only Void Ethereal who has not followed the path of corruption and destruction. Tell me about Venari. Oh, Venari, she's really, like, she's one of the best in perhaps the entirety of Shadowlands. And them all, of course. What is happening? Corthia. Oh, Venari. It is preferable when an investment pays off. Ease of passage. Corthia is ripe with opportunity. Look at all of these intriguing objects. In anticipation of such wonders, I have come prepared. Let us find a suitable location and establish a more permanent connection between this place and my refuge. Our work together is not yet finished. Establish a connection between Corthia and Venari's refuge.
Do not draw the jailer's eye. We have need of open space, but not. This will do. Now, Moorwalker, kindly activate the device with a touch of your anima. It worked. As I knew it would, of course. Oh dear, I seem to have left my bag in that musty cave. Retrieve it from me and we shall depart.
Venari's overstuffed bag.
Let Mishi free you from your burdens and make this trip more quickly. Venari was unusual indeed. She resided in the Maw, the darkest, most dangerous part of the realm of death. Still, an alliance was built with her over time. And although it was unlikely she would call anyone friend, those that did her the most favors were the ones most favored in turn.
There you are. I trust my bag isn't too heavy for you. Come along then. We have much to do. I have limitless time. You do not. Procure something of value.
Interesting oral sequencers and an ethereal clock.
Very profitable effort indeed.
Oh, and something special for me as well. If I'm not mistaken, and so rarely I am, this is a projection mechanism, very handy. And what's this? A transportation device of some kind? We should test it immediately. And by we, of course, I mean you.
I will detain you no longer. You were transferred, yes? Interesting. I've made an adjustment to the device to modify the destination coordinates. Have you come to trade or to waste your breath?
Tell me more about Venari. Venari is an unusual broker, having left her cartel to operate independently. She took up residence in the most dangerous of all places within the Shadowlands, the Maw. Yet she succeeded at operating there profitably without drawing attention from the jailer or his eye. Even paranoid, though perhaps rightfully, Venari faked her own death. Her current whereabouts are unknown. And what do we know about broker cartels? All brokers we know of belong to a cartel. Their membership is indicated by the first portion of their name. You heard the story of Altali from Cartel Al and Venari from Cartel V, though she serves them no longer. Because the brokers have no known homeworld, they rely on the fellow members of their cartel to give them protection, help, and cooperation. Thank you. I mean, we didn't see much about Venari though. Or I don't know if it's bugged. Yeah.
Greetings. Farewell. Every glow? Who is this?
An excellent tale, and pertinent. Venari has need of your aid, hero. Let's not waste time.
Om Rahula. So I guess he's from Cartel Om. I apologize for interrupting your conversation, Mortal, but it was your discussion that drew Venari's attention. She hears much, after all, especially when her name is involved. I have been sent with an object for you to deliver to Locust Walker. He is an ethereal that dwells within Telocrus Rift. I believe the void elves of your world also reside there. There is no need to travel. I will provide a portal to where you must go. Will you assist her in the task?
I do not recommend you keep her waiting.
How does today find you? Tread lightly. Jade Serpent guide you.
All right.
It is all about perspective.
Ooh, the void will claim you.
What is that you carry, mortal?
I don't know, what do I carry?
Dive.
Ah, and delivery for me. This is most curious. Very well, let me have it then. And you have my thanks for helping fend off the Shadow Guard. Veni Vidi Venari. A broker sent you with this device, and they were sent to you by Venari? This does not bode well. Witness a conversation with Locust Walker. Oh, and this is the last one, I guess. We're gonna get Courage Memory Crystal. We're gonna get again another Low Walker's Crate. We're gonna get some Valor Stones, Weather Undermine Crest, and we're gonna get Lore Walker's Knows the Ethereals. Information compiled by the Lore Walkers on the Ethereals.
Oh, as I suspected. The Shadow Guard are after you as well?
I have not seen you since the destruction of our world, as I preferred it.
Such thanks, Locust
That was a bit of a lore drop. A lore bomb. Wasn't it? We have Venari discussing with Logitech. Like they're all pals. Did you think I will not know stories were being told about me? You only survive in my position by being exceedingly cautious. Concealment is everything.
Return only if you must.
Locus Walker, let's see what he says. It seems the Shadow Guard are determined to stop us from speaking. I mean, how cool is that though? How cool is that? We have Venari and then we have also Locus Walker discussing that they know one another. Are they both originated from Karesh? Most likely. Most likely. Dun, 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 dun. And yeah, like I said, this is the end. I'm gonna go and return to Lorewalking show. And yeah, he's probably, I don't know if he's gonna say anything about these two entities coming together. Probably he's gonna have to say something about it. So yeah, we're gonna get back to Dornogal.
From Karesh? Is it possible they were once one people? Although the Ethereals are not the most forthcoming, their history is one of survival in the face of horrors beyond imagining. Their world was destroyed, yet they still managed.
That's true, man.
Thank you, my friend.
Oh. Veni Vidi Venari. I have more questions. Is there anything else he can tell us about? Nah. So, Locus Walker and Venari knew each other? Are you certain, my friend? It seems my research was not unfounded after all. I sought to expand your knowledge of the ethereals, but you have expanded mine instead. You have my thanks. So we're getting Karesh Memory Crystal, a toy that will help us take the appearance on a Kareshi. Let us see what that means. We have a book, Lowwalker's notes, and then we have Valorstone's crest and gear.
Thank you for listening to my tale, friend.
Yeah. That basically says that Broker is indeed a Kareshi. Someone that is originated from Karesh. Believe it or not. Can I dance with it? Nah. Well, I ought to try.
Hello. Eyes open. Always be learning. Tread lightly.
Alright, that's quite interesting. And we have Lowwalker's notes the Ethereals. The Ethereals once hauled from the world of Karesh, but the world was shattered long ago by the Void Lord Dimensius. Left without a home, the Ethereals scatter across the cosmos, traveling to different worlds in search of trade, knowledge, and vengeance for the loss of their home. In Outland, the Ethereals were able to confront Dimensius and prevent the Void Lord from unleashing destruction on the already fragile world. But in the process, it was discovered that Nexus King Salhadar and his followers had turned to the Void themselves. In the years that followed, more Ethereals turned to the Void in pursuit of power. However, there was one Void Ethereal named Locus Walker who approached the Void differently. He seemingly uses the Void for good, teaching others how to harness it and do the same. There is another race that bears a striking resemblance to the Ethereals, the Brokers, first encountered in the Land of Death, seem to have much of the same expertise for technology and trade as the Ethereals do. The Brokers are divided into cartels, and while they reside side by side in Oribos, they do not always interact with harmony. Once very cunning broker, Venari, worked with a hero called the Mowalker in the Shadowlands. Afterwards, she vanished, only to send a missive asking for a favor years later. It seems the Ethereals and the Brokers are very similar for a reason. They both hail from Karesh. Venari sought out Locus Walker to deliver some information about their old homeworld, although again, because this is really important. It seems the Ethereals and the Brokers are very similar for a reason. They both hail from Karesh. Venari sought out Locus Walker to deliver some information about their old homeworld, although what that information will lead to remains to be seen. I mean, this is pretty good, man. This is pretty good. Like, this is pretty good. Just from this, we learn that Ethereals and Brokers are essentially brothers and sisters, both originating from Karesh. I mean, I think that's pretty huge. Yeah, I think that's pretty huge. Hellstone. What is that? All right, that's pretty much all. I'm gonna end the stream now. So yeah, I gotta say, I mean, it's pretty exciting what we got to experience. especially in the form of questing. Like, all of the quests were pretty easy to do. Everything was, well, like 2-3 shots. Didn't have much annoying stuff. Like, yeah, I think um, that's yeah, that's pretty neat. Pretty neat. I do hope at some point we have this as a allied race. I don't know if that can happen, but that would be really, really cool. Yeah. Hello. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. It's, I think it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool that we get to experience these things, and especially if you didn't play like if you didn't play Shadowlands, you probably don't know what are the brokers, or like maybe the maybe Argus, Allyria's storyline. There is more. There is more, but I don't know. Like that took like an hour to witness. I'm guessing Zalatath is gone. Okay, maybe it's shorter because honestly, we don't really know much about her. um, yeah, tomorrow maybe we can work on the other two. It's pretty cool to actually like record this and have it as a footage. I already recorded this one, and their dialogues and all of that. And yeah, maybe tomorrow we can work on Zalatath and the Lich King and all of that. But yeah, I think it's pretty late here. It's like almost 2 a.m. I have been streaming for almost 4 hours now. So yeah, I think that's it. I'm gonna wrap it up. Thank you so much who tanked along the way. And yeah, I do hope you like my new setup. I also I almost got the chance to test out the new camera and like work it a bit, see how it works, what's the best angle and all of that. And yeah, that's all. In the meantime, you can watch the two recent videos I made, which is how to acquire 3 mounts from Horrific Visions. First one is the Nesting Swarmite. Okay, nimble, really cool flying spider, bat, whatever you want to call it. Void. We have the Void Force Stallion. Again, I think that's pretty cool as well to get. And then we have the Void Scar Griffon. All of these are obtained through the Horrific Vision of Stonewind. Actually, Nesting Swarmite can also be obtained through Orgrimmar, but the other two are only from Stonewind, which is available this week. So if you want to get them, go watch my videos to learn how to get them. They're pretty easy. I got all, yeah, I think I got all of them yesterday or before yesterday. So yeah, it was pretty fast and easy to get. You just need to follow some guidelines, that's all. And yeah, I am now working on another video that you have all been waiting for. So I don't know if, well, tomorrow actually I'm gonna have a trip to the to our capital. We need to get some stuff. So if I end up streaming, it's gonna be either afternoon or around the same time as now. So keep an eye out for that. And probably in the morning I'm gonna continue editing the video that I'm working on, which I'm not gonna tell you which one it is, but if you have been following me, you probably know. So yeah, I'm gonna leave that there. Like I said, thank you so much for tagging along, and I'll see you all in the next stream. Bye.